The ripple effect of kindness. Welcome to Life Tells Stories. In today's emotional journey, we explore a tale of kindness that transformed a life. One simple decision, a seemingly insignificant act, became a turning point for someone who desperately needed it. Would you give up your seat on a crowded bus without expecting anything in return? What if I told you that such a small act could change your destiny forever? Stay tuned to discover how compassion can move mountains. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Life Tells Stories for more inspiring content that connects us to the heart of human experiences. Alice's life was anything but easy. Living paycheck to paycheck, she worked long hours as a cashier at a local convenience store. Most of her earnings went to taking care of her ailing mother, who had been battling health issues for months. Alice's apartment was cramped, cold, and filled with signs of the financial hardship she endured daily. Each day, her only solace came from the quiet mornings before the chaos of work began. Every night, she questioned whether she was doing enough, whether she was strong enough to keep going. She felt like she was standing on the edge, one misstep away from losing everything. Despite her own struggles, her heart had always been open, even when it seemed she had nothing to give. One rainy afternoon, Alice boarded a crowded bus on her way to work. The exhaustion was visible on her face. Her eyes were heavy from lack of sleep, and the weight of her problems pressed down on her shoulders. Finding a small spot near the window, she sank into the seat, grateful for a brief moment of rest. The bus moved along, packed with people immersed in their phones, or simply staring out of the windows, disconnected from one another. Then, Alice noticed him, an elderly man, frail and bent with age, struggling to maintain his balance while holding onto a metal railing. His hands trembled as he tried to steady himself, and his eyes reflected years of hardship. Without a second thought, Alice stood up and offered her seat. The elderly man looked at her with surprise, and a smile slowly spread across his face. "Thank you," he whispered. To Alice, it was just a simple gesture, a natural response to seeing someone in need. But she didn't realize at that moment how deeply this act of kindness would reverberate through her life. The next day began like any other, with Alice rushing out of her apartment to work. She could hardly grab breakfast as she made her way through the bustling streets. The old man from the bus was still on her mind. His smile had left a lasting impression. It was a small interaction, yet it made her feel that maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than simply surviving. That evening, after another exhausting day at work, Alice returned home. As she opened her door, her eyes fell on a peculiar sight. A delivery man stood waiting with a large envelope. The envelope was unmarked, with no return address, which piqued her curiosity. Inside, she found a neatly folded letter. Written in elegant handwriting, it read, "Dear Alice, you may not remember me, but I will never forget your kindness. The seat you gave up for me yesterday meant more than you know. Your quiet sacrifice and strength inspired me. I would like to offer you an opportunity that could change your life. Please meet me tomorrow at the address below. You may not believe this now, but this could be the beginning of something extraordinary. With respect, the elderly man from the bus." Alice couldn't believe what she was reading. Who was this man, and why was he offering her an opportunity? Her first instinct was to dismiss it as a prank, but there was something heartfelt about the letter, something that sparked hope within her. The next morning, Alice woke up early, the letter still on her mind. She knew that this could be her one chance to change the course of her life. Despite her doubts and fears, there was a small voice within her urging her to see it through. After all, what did she have to lose? After finishing her shift, Alice gathered her courage and made her way to the address written in the letter. It led her to an upscale part of the city, a place she had only seen from a distance. The buildings were tall and elegant, the streets lined with expensive cars, and Alice felt entirely out of place. But something kept pushing her forward. When she entered the building, Alice was greeted by a man in a suit who addressed her by name. He led her through hallways that seemed to belong in a different world, until they reached a large, luxurious office. Standing by the window was the elderly man from the bus. He turned to her and smiled warmly. "Alice, thank you for coming," he said. Alice stood there, overwhelmed and unsure of what to say. The man gestured for her to sit and began to speak. He explained that he had been deeply moved by her selflessness, something he rarely saw in the world today. He had been searching for someone like her, someone compassionate, someone who knew the value of small acts of kindness. The elderly man then presented Alice with an opportunity beyond anything she had imagined. He handed her a folder containing an official job offer. It wasn't just any job. It was a high-paying position that would allow her to leave her old struggles behind, to focus on her mother's health, and finally find some stability. As she held the folder, Alice's eyes widened. The job offered her a life she had only dreamed of, a life without the constant fear of falling behind on bills or worrying about her mother's declining health. She could barely process what was happening. Why would someone do this for her? "Because you deserve it," the elderly man said, as if reading her thoughts. "Sometimes life rewards us for the kindness." Before Alice left, the elderly man handed her a small sealed envelope. "This is for you," he said. "Open it when you're ready. It's my way of thanking you for your kindness." As she walked back to her apartment, the envelope felt heavy in her hand. She was both excited and terrified about what lay inside. Once home, she sat down at her kitchen table and opened it. Inside was a check for an amount of money far beyond anything she had ever imagined. It was enough to pay off all her debts, cover her mother's medical expenses, and ensure they never had to worry again. Alice couldn't hold back her tears. It felt like a miracle, an impossible stroke of luck that had suddenly turned her entire life around. She sat there, staring at the check, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what this meant for her and her mother. As the days went by, Alice decided to accept the job offer. She called the number on the letter, and everything began to fall into place. Her life transformed. She moved into a better apartment and could finally afford to take proper care of her mother. The burden she had carried for so long had finally lifted. The sense of hopelessness that had weighed her down was replaced with a new emotion: hope. If you feel moved by Alice's story, let us know in the comments how this story made you feel with just one word. We love to hear from our viewers and share these emotional journeys together. Alice's new life was everything she had dreamed of, and more. She began working alongside the elderly man, who turned out to be a philanthropist dedicated to helping others. He taught her the importance of giving back, and Alice found herself inspired to do the same. She no longer felt invisible. Her struggles had been seen, her kindness had been rewarded, and she was determined to pass it on. The work she did in her new position helped other struggling families, and Alice found herself motivated by her own experience. She realized that kindness, no matter how small, had a ripple effect. A simple gesture, giving up her seat, had changed her life, and now she wanted to do the same for others. Years later, Alice looked back on that moment on the bus and realized that it had been the turning point, the catalyst that had set everything into motion. The elderly man had seen something in her that she had struggled to see in herself: strength, compassion, and resilience. And because of that, her life had changed in ways she had never thought possible. Alice had learned a powerful lesson. The smallest acts of kindness could create waves that traveled far beyond what we could see. It wasn't about grand gestures or monumental sacrifices. It was about recognizing the humanity in others and choosing to make a difference, even in the smallest of ways. This story is a reminder that even the simplest actions can have profound effects. Alice's decision to offer her bus seat led to a transformation she could never have imagined. It highlights the importance of compassion, empathy, and hope in a world that often seems indifferent. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more content that highlights the beauty of the human spirit, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Life Tells Stories. Let's continue to spread positivity, kindness, and hope, one story at a time. Thank you for watching, and remember, your small act of kindness could be the start of something extraordinary. Stay kind, stay hopeful, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories. Until next time, take care.